dramatic introduction to a very famous film, Bridge Over the River Kwai. Well, today, family and friends will gather to celebrate the life of a former soldier who's thought to be the last surviving veteran of the infamous Burma Railway. Jack Jennings died at the age of 104 at his care home in Torquay last month. He was among 60,000 Allied prisoners forced by the Japanese to build a railway between Thailand and Myanmar, then Burma, from 1942 to 1943. He was also a real family man, and his two daughters, Carol Barrett and Hazel Heath, are with me to tell me a little bit more about Jack. Good morning, both. Thanks for being there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow,
Good morning.
104, your dad. That's quite the innings, isn't it?
Almost 105, actually, in March. March the 10th, he would have been 105.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about your dad.
He was a really loving family man. We had a great childhood. He met my mum before he went to the war. They met at Sunday school in Old Hill Methodist Church. So they were sweethearts before he went out to the Far East. And just before he went, he asked her to marry him. And as soon as he came back at the end of the war in October 1945, he told his mum that they were going to get married. And they got married in December in 1945. And they were together for about 57 years, I think, before Mum died in 2003. So, yeah, it was a real love story. She waited for him, and when he returned from the Far East in October 45, she was waiting for him on the platform of New Street Station, and they had their photograph taken, and it was in the local press. After that, he didn't really talk very much about his experiences. We knew from his nightmares that he suffered a lot, and he told us in later years that he asked my mum to wake him up when he had those nightmares. And I think they carried on for a very long time, probably until he went back to the Far East on a tour with Hazel.
Yes, yeah.
Gosh.
In 1995, yes. That was the first time he went back.
So he didn't talk about it much, but what do you know about what happened to him during the war then?
Well, we know a lot from his memoirs. He was told, every prisoner of war was told not to talk about their experiences because people had suffered so much at home. And so they didn't even talk to each other about it. But we know from the fact that he had an ulcer on the back of his leg. He had a big scar where he'd had surgery in 1943, I think it was. 1943. He had a tropical ulcer.
Which many of them did, actually.
Yes, many of them died.
Died from those.
Yeah. But Dad was able to have a skin graft. They took pieces of skin from his thigh to put on the back of his leg with very little medicine. British doctors performed it in horrific conditions.
There was no anaesthetic.
Wow.
No. So we learned a lot of this from his memoirs, not from him talking about it, really. He started to write his memoirs when he was 73, I think it was.
Yes, when he retired. He worked up till about 70 at least, wasn't he?
But he always said that he was one of the lucky ones, and we kind of felt the same, really, that we were privileged that he got through it and was able to come home and, eventually talk about it, because so many of them didn't. And he was almost grateful to the fact that he was ill, because at the time when he was in the hospital camp in Chiang Kai, the Japanese were just starting the really brutal attack on the railway. They were desperate to get the railway finished, and that was a time called Speedo, where they really were very brutal. And at that time, for months, Dad was in hospital, recovering first from renal colic and then from the skin graft. And by the time he went back up onto the railway, I think, it was getting towards the end of the war, really. And so once the railway was finished, he went
up to Uttaraddit,
yes, and he was working on the state railway then, cutting down timber to keep the engines going.
Did he ever watch Bridge Over the River Kwai and be like, I built that?
He did watch it, and yes, he saw The Railway Man, but I don't think he was over impressed with the film, to be perfectly truthful. I think General Purcell got a bad press really through that film. I think he was quite well respected really amongst the troops. Toosey, yes, sorry. Yes, General Toosey. He was quite well respected, I think. So I think the film was slightly coloured against him, really.
The last surviving member of, 85,000 strong prisoner of war soldiers that were killed or captured when Singapore fell then to the Japanese in World War II. That is quite, it's quite something, isn't it? And it's going to be quite a celebration of his life, I guess. 104.
We hope so. Yes, we hope so. We have the representatives from his regiment, the Cambridgeshire Regiment. 2 lieutenant colonels are coming. I think we'll give him a good send off. The British Legion will be there, so we'll be playing the last post in the River Valley. There'll be a bugler. So we hope to give him a good send off in the little theatre in Torquay, which is where he went actually. Sadly, in the last few years of his life, he did start getting dementia. But he used to go to the Memory Cafe there, and he still played his harmonica, which he played from being a teenager, really. He was in a band when he was in his teens. And when he came back, and especially in latter years, he used to go to Aldway Mansion in Paynton, and he loved to go there and entertain the ladies, who used to come in and listen to him, and he'd play all the old wartime songs.
He had quite a following there.
He did, yes. He was quite the ladies' man in his last few years. But he could still play a good tune.
And he liked his cake there, didn't he?
He loved to have a slice of cake and a cup of coffee there.
And a kiss with Kathy.
Yes.
How do you think you'll feel, Carol and Hazel, saying goodbye to your dad today? What do you think it'll be like?
I think it will be very emotional, but at the same time...
Our lives so long, isn't he, really?
Yeah. He was, a wonderful role model for both of us. He helped us through many a difficult time when we were younger. But we had a happy childhood, so we've got a lot to be grateful for.
We adored him, didn't we? As children. We went everywhere with him.
Yeah. Yes, he was a carpenter and joiner, as you probably know by trade, and I used to follow him about. He used to do jobs for lots of people. I used to pass the tools over to him. He was a big West Bromwich Albion supporter as well, and we used to go up to the Hawthorns to watch West Bromwich Albion. So, we looked back. We had many holidays. We were lucky. We had a holiday every year, a lot down in Devon and Cornwall. We have a lot to be grateful for. So I think, we've got quite a few people who will be talking about him today, his grandchildren.
Some of my friends are in their sort of 40s and 50s when they lose their parents, and their parents are, a decent age, they might be in their 80s or whatever, still say they feel a bit sort of orphaned, like they feel like they've lost an anchor in their life a little bit, even though, your dad is 104, and I don't know how old you both are, but I guess in your 70s maybe.
Mid-70s.
Yes.
Does it have any of that feeling to it? Not having him there, is that constant?
It does.
It does in a way, yes.
It's strange not to no longer have a parent, and
I live in Yorkshire, and I used to ring him every day before he went into the care home last year. So that was, a big gap for me, really.
Yes, it would be particularly, a loss to me, because I've looked after him really the last 16 years, or kept an eye on him. And, first when he came down, he was so independent, and but the last few years, I felt I needed to go and see him regularly, and especially before he went into the home in May. He didn't. He was at his own flat on his own until the end of May last year.
But he had carers going in. I mean, he was still very independent and very mobile. He was mobile up until the week before he died, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Which is amazing
he wouldn't use a
physically.
stick.
Physically, bearing in mind what he went through, you know, it's amazing he lived.
He was never
so long.
ill. I mean, that was the thing. He never took any medicine.
He was fine. It was just his brain was...
he didn't like taking medicine. He thought walking sticks were for old fogies.
Still thought of himself as young.
Yeah, he did. He still...
I don't think he had any idea of his age, really.
No.
At the end. But
No.
The word legend gets bandied about too much, but what a legend. What an absolute legend. 104, Jack.
I remember him saying that someone in the camps, actually, once when he was poorly, said he was a lion. It was like he gave the name lion in time, you know. They called him Lion because he was so strong.
He had the will to survive. Yeah. That's what got him through the war, really. He said that when he became a prisoner, he was determined to forget about home and to live every day as it came. So he had no thoughts of home, really, and I think that was the survival instinct that was what got him through.
Incredible. What an incredible
Because he saw so many people die alongside him.
What was his tipple, Jack?
He loved Tia Maria in his coffee.
Right.
Or coffee and his Tia Maria.
I tell you what, I'll raise a Tia Maria in the pub later to Jack. And I hope it's a lovely celebration of his life today, which funerals can be. It's at 3:30 at the Torquay Little Theatre. So if you see the funeral procession or you're passing there, just know that it's Jack Jennings and he had one hell of a life, 104. And
give him a wave.
Give him a wave and think of him today because, he's worth thinking about and he's worth remembering. Thank you so much both for coming on this morning to pay such a lovely tribute to your dad.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Cheers. Take care.